Hello friends, I'm Kayla. I wasn't planning on doing this video for a couple more weeks, but there have just been so many book announcements lately that I can't put it off anymore. I need to talk to you about them. I say that with enthusiasm as if I know what any of them are about. I don't. And that's what the point of these videos are, is reading the synopsis for the first time with you, and we figure out if it's a book that we want to read. For the most part, that's what these videos are, but there is also a little bit of like just cover. I'm not revealing them, but the covers have been revealed for books we've already talked about the synopsis for, and I want to talk about the cover. Let's start with some sequels. So I talked about in my last edition episode of this, The Game is Afoot by Elise Bryant, which I'm excited about because it's one of the cozier mysteries that I've actually really enjoyed in life. It's Elementary was the first book, and I talked about the sequel and what it was about, and we got a cover. I like the cover because it like matches the first one, but I don't think that the art style is necessarily my favorite, but it's better than a lot of other cozy mystery series, so I will take it. In this one, our main character, her kid's soccer coach drops dead, and she's gonna solve the mystery. The sequel for Quicksilver has been announced. It doesn't have a cover yet. I actually can't even picture what the cover would be. I wonder if it'll be the same. Well, actually, is it the same story? Like, it's just a sequel of Ceres and Kingfisher, I think. But the title's been announced. It's called Brimstone. So there's that. Ceres doesn't want power. The very last thing she needs in her name. What is her name whispered on an entire court's lips? But now she's been crowned. Okay, well, is this going to spoil things that happen in Quicksilver? Anyway, just know it's a sequel. Do I recommend the first book? Technically, yeah. Am I a romantic-y girly? Not really. So should you take my opinion with a grain of salt? For sure. Next up is Sweet Heat. It has a really long subtitle that I don't actually see on the cover, but it is on Goodreads, so we'll read it. A sparkling modern love story of second chances, undeniable chemistry, and navigating life's twists in the world of podcasting. It feels like when you go on one of those cheap websites for clothes, and it's like the description is this long, like women's dress, women's shirt, women's button-up dress shirt. Appreciate the pitch, but it is a sequel, though on Goodreads it's not listed as a sequel, which like maybe I'm just like, I've clicked on a weird listing. I don't know. Let's talk about the cover, which I think is beautiful. I do like, actually I don't love the original cover of Honey and Spice. I think I prefer the paperback version because it makes it feel like more of a romance with both people on the cover, and this one has gone back to just, you know, Kiki on the cover. In the first book they fell in love, and in this one, like, I guess they're gonna break up, but I'm sure they're gonna come back together by the end. Did I ever need that? No, but I think I'll be reading it. It comes out in September, and I think the colors of this are so incredibly beautiful. Then we got A Mouthful of Dust, The Singing Hill Cycle, book number 6 by Nevo. This one follows the Cleric Chi, as it always does, as they are writing stories and keeping track of tales. And it says, trapped in the mansion of a sinister magistrate, Chi must learn what happened in Baolin when the famine came to call, and they must do it quickly because the thing in the shadows are only growing hungrier. Oh my. I think I like the cover. It's not my favorite of the series, but I'm gonna go ahead and rank on the screen how I would put them, and then you can also tell me where this one lands for you. Is it in the first spot? Is it in the 4th spot? I like the colors. I like the cat, and that's that. A sequel that I felt like talking about, even though I haven't read the first book and probably won't read this one, but in case you didn't know, Not in Love by Ali Hazelwood is getting a sequel. It's called Problematic Summer Romance, which I think is a fun title, and it's following Maya and Connor. So I don't know if those are the people in the original story or if this is a spin-off, but you will know. Of course, we have to talk about We Love You, Bunny. Because in the last video I did talk about how it was announced, how it's not something I've ever wanted. I'm sure it's going to be a good book. I still don't know if and when I'm going to read it, but the news this time is there's a cover. I hate it. Really, you know, happy for the publisher and the designer because it's obviously, you know, what they wanted and what they envisioned, and it's perfect for that. For my taste, I don't like it at all. I do like the idea of it, all of the florals, and it's like, this could be somebody, like this could be a photograph. I don't know if the publisher has put out any bit of like designing the cover, because I know there have been covers kind of like this, where you look at it and you don't know if it's a photograph or an illustration, and they show the behind the scenes. And like, I just remember one being out there where they like literally tied strings to all these things and took a photo of it for a cover, and I thought that was so cool. This looks like someone like folded plants and made this bunny. And then from there they could have manipulated it, or it's a complete manipulation. Either way, I just don't like it. I don't think that it obviously doesn't like match the first book, so is that my real problem? I guess. I don't like the background of it. The bunny just like makes me feel really unsettled. It feels like maybe they had this idea and they committed to it so hard that they didn't have anything else and they just went with it, even though the final product is like just, it's strange. If you love it, I would love to hear your thoughts. I like the pink. I think that's all the sequels that I have. Then we've got the cover reveal for Catabasis. I have no idea how to pronounce it. This one was out. I think it had been leaked because I saw it months and months ago and I almost included it in the last video like this, but I didn't think it was officially announced, so I didn't want to include it and be like the one who ruined it. And I don't think I've actually looked into anybody else's thoughts about this, so I don't know if people love it or hate it. I think it's interesting and it's unique and it's something I haven't really seen before. I like the green a lot. I like the gold. I don't know if just looking at it, I fell in love immediately. Well, I didn't. I'm not obsessed with it, but I do think it's really interesting. And it does seem to give the vibe for the book. So happy with that. We also got a cover reveal for Hot Wax by ML Rio, which you might recall last time we talked about like the teaser cover and how it was this hot pink drippy thing. And we were all like, this should be it. Like, this is beautiful. This is fun. The pink has now turned red. The cover has the same essence. And I don't like it as much as the pink, but I get it. And I like it enough. Do you agree? Okay, now let's get into some announced things that we haven't talked about before. This chunk is going to be from authors that I've read from before. So Good and Evil and Other Stories was announced by Samantha Schweblin, translated by Megan McDowell. I have read some Samantha Schweblin. I have quite a few unfinished short story collections from her on my TBR shelf, so I should read those before this one. But I guess I don't need to read the synopsis. It's just tales. Like, they're fantastical, they're strange, horrifying, and that's that. Then The Poppy Fields by Nikki Erlich, the author of The Measure, was announced. I'm interested to see what this one's about. I feel like I loosely know. Maybe I didn't. I don't know. Anyway, the cover, don't like it. It looks like not a science fiction story. It looks like a cover they would have given like Leanne Moriarty 25 years ago. Okay, it says, what if there was a cure for the brokenhearted? Here in a remote stretch of the California desert lies an experimental and controversial treatment center that allows those suffering from the heartache of loss to sleep through their pain and keep on sleeping. After patients awaken from the prolonged state of slumber, they will finally be healed, but only if they're willing to accept the potential shadowy side effects. Yeah, I bet. Okay, are we following a bunch of people? Ava, a book illustrator, Ray, a fireman, Sasha, an occupational therapist, Sky, a free spirit, and a friendly pup named PJ. They make their way to the Midwest, all the way to the poppy fields, where they hope to meet Ellis, its brilliant, enigmatic founder. Each of their past secrets and mysterious motivations threaten to derail their voyage. Okay, I was interested at first, and then it sounds more culty. I'm interested to see exactly what we follow in here. Will I wait for people's reviews? I think so. Fate's Bane by C.L. Clark. It said it's a tragic sapphic adventure, and I was intrigued. Warring clans, burning hearts, deadly fate. The clans of the Fens enjoy a tenuous peace, and it's all thanks to Agnir, ward and hostage. For as long as she can remember, she's lived among the enemy, learning their ways, growing strong along their children. When a burgeoning love for the chieftain's daughter lures them both to a hidden spring, a magic awakens in them that could bind the clans under one banner at last, or destroy any hope at peace. By working their intentions into leather, they can weave misfortune for their enemies, just like the Fate's Bane that haunts the legends of the clans. That sounds, oh, it's a novella. Okay, I'm interested enough in it to read a full-length novel, but if it's a novella, I will 100% read it. There's a new Sarah Gailey announced, another strange sounding or looking novella called Spread Me. Let's find out what it is. A darkly seductive tale of survival. After a routine probe at a research station turns deadly when the team discovers a strange specimen in search of a warm place to stay. Kinsley has the perfect job as the team lead at a remote research outpost. She loves the solitude and the way the desert keeps her away from temptations. When her crew discovers a mysterious specimen buried deep in the sand, Kinsley breaks quarantine and brings it into the hab. But the longer it's inside, the more her carefully controlled life begins to unravel. Temptation has found her after all, and it can't be ignored any longer. One by one, Kinsley's team realizes the thing they're studying is in search of a new host, and one of them is the perfect candidate. Yeah, creepy. I'll be reading that. Neil Sharpson, author of one of my favorite horror books of last year, has a new one called The Burial Tide coming. I don't love the cover, but I don't hate it. I think it's just that I don't love like a werewolf kind of story, I don't think. And so this one isn't making me go, ooh, I have to read it, but the synopsis might. A woman who can't remember her death. On an eerie, quiet island off the coast of Ireland, a woman with no memory claws her way out of her grave and back to life. But not everyone welcomes the return of Mara Fitch. An island with a terrible secret. Inishbinock, where strange, misshapen figures watch from the trees and the roads are covered in teeth, where two brothers gamble for nothing. The doctor only treats the dead, and the pub owner speaks in riddles, where a poet loses and finds his soul, and a husband without a wife claims to know everything about Mara. Have I read this before? A past that refuses to stay buried. As Mara returns to her life on this upside-down island, her memory begins to leach its way back to the surface. The more she remembers, the more the village will do anything to stop her. But the sea remembers it all. I feel like maybe there was a vague idea of this when it didn't have a cover, but now it's more like cleanly laid out. Yeah, I'm going to be reading that. I'm a sucker for an island story. That one by Sarah Gailey reminded me a little bit of the vibes of Leech. And now, that author, here on Ennis, that was one of my favorite books of the year before last year, has a new book coming out called The Works of Vermin. The cover is not what I expected at all based on what it looked like last time. So I am intrigued to find out what it's actually about. Enter the decadent, deadly city of Tillard, carved into the stump of an ancient tree. In its canopy, the pampered elite warp minds with toxic perfume. In its roots, gangs of exterminators hunt a colossal worm with an appetite for beauty. Oh my god, that is a worm! Oh, ew. Okay, the cover is as unsettling as the first one. I was gonna do a kind of bug vlog sometime this year. Maybe I need to push it to October when this comes out. In a complex, chaotic city, Guy has a simple... Oh no, the synopsis is broken again. However, things get copied from like the publisher to Goodreads. There's just something that doesn't translate properly, and no one double checking it drives me crazy. Guy has a simple mission, maybe? Keep his sister out of debt. For her sake, he'll take on any jobs no matter how vile. As an exterminator, Guy hunts the uncanny pests that crawl up from the river. Ew. These vermin are all strange and often dangerous. His latest quarry is a worm the size of a dragon with a deadly venom and a ravenous taste for artwork. As it digests Tillard from the sewers to the opera houses, its toxin reshapes the future of the city. No sane person would hunt it if they had a choice. Guy doesn't have a choice. Okay, that sounds very interesting. A couple covers, I feel like there was 3 different things by T. Kingfisher that all got announced at the same time, and I don't know if they're like republishings of things that she's had out before or what everything is, but Snake Eater is this one. The cover's cute. In an isolated desert town, a young woman seeking a fresh start is confronted by ancient ghosts, malevolent supernatural forces, and eccentric neighbors. Okay, so like horror-tinged fantasy, I think, is how you would describe a lot of her work. The other one I saw is Hemlock and Silver. This one's pretty. It's a dark reimagining of Snow White, steeped in poison, intrigue, and treason of the most magical kind. Then we've got something by Kosoko Jackson that I'm interested in. I think the cover is interesting. It's the macabre or the macabre, depending on, I guess, where you live. This says it's his adult fantasy debut, which is very exciting just in general. A standalone novel blending of art, history, time, and a globe-hopping adventure and dark horror and fantasy. This is the most run-on sentence. About 10 cursed paintings and the lengths people will go to collect them, destroy them, or be destroyed. A struggling painter, Lewis is shocked when the British Museum shows an unusual interest in his art. While he's always felt there was something powerful about what he puts on canvas, he also felt like there was something disturbing just under the surface, especially as he was compelled to make a painting of a painting. One that he has a connection. The object of his art is one of the 10 paintings his great-grandfather created over 100 years ago. That sentence didn't make sense. Only Lewis's version is surreal and maybe just a touch horrific. He accepts the invitation, only to find not a curated show, but to see if he not only has the magic necessary to enter the paintings, but also the strength to escape them. I'm intrigued. This one comes out in the fall. This one is a young adult horror, and I thought I would mention it. I don't know if I'll be picking it up because YA horror like isn't a #1 thing for me, but if you also read the CJ Drews that I read last year, you might be interested in Hazelthorn. The cover is uncomfortable, and this one says it's another deeply unsettling and yet hauntingly beautiful tale of murder and botanical body horror. This one intrigued me by Alexandria Bellafleur because I only know this author as a contemporary romance author, but maybe she's written other things. This one's called The Devil She Knows, and it looks, you know, a little paranormal. A down-on-her-luck woman makes a deal with a crafty demon to win back her ex-girlfriend after a proposal gone awry, only to discover the girl of her dreams might be the devil she knows. Interesting. Another paranormally one from a romance author that I've read from before as just a contemporary author is B.K. Borison. This one's called Good Spirits. I imagine it's coming out like perfectly in time to read for Christmas. And it says it's about like the ghost of Christmas past. Nolan Callahan intends to spend their holiday haunting like every other. Get in, get out, return to his life otherwise aimless existence as a ghost awaiting the afterlife. But when he's faced with Harriet, the sweetest assignment he's ever had, he suddenly finds himself wishing for a future. Harriet has no idea why she's being haunted. She's a good person, or at least she tries to be. A people pleaser to her core, she always does what's expected of her. But as she and Nolan begin to examine her past, they discover there are threads that bind them together and realize there may be more to them moving on than expected. That one sounds cute. I also can't remember if I talked about this one. Katrina Leno, one of my favorite YA authors, has her adult debut coming. She writes like some fabulism stuff, and this just looks more realistic fiction to me. But it says, are the 4 Farthing sisters really descendants from Persephone? This is what their aunt has always told them about the women in their family. They can trace their lineage right back to the goddess of the dead. And maybe she's right, because the Farthing girls do have a ghost in the attic of their Manhattan brownstone, a kind and gentle ghost named Henry, who only they can see. When one of the sisters falls in love with the ghost, another banishes him to the underworld. The sisters are faced with even bigger questions about who they are. If they really are related to Persephone, and they really are a bit magic, then perhaps it's up to them to save Henry, to save the world, and to save each other. Wait, but it's tagged as young adult. Maybe this... Wait, I thought this was adult. Oh, it is YA. Okay, my bad. I think the cover looks more adult, and that's where I got a little bit confused. I will be reading it because Katrina Leno, her stuff is just, it's really special. Next up, from authors I've read from before, Lee Mandelow has a short story collection that they edited. It's called Amplitudes, Stories of Queer and Trans Futurity. It says, from self-styled knights fighting in dystopian city streets to conservationists finding love in the Appalachian forests, from social media posts about domestic bliss in a lottery-based state housing skyscraper to herding feral cats off of one's scientific equipment. From street drugs that create doppelgangers to dance clubs cruising at the edge of the galaxy, Stories of Queer and Trans Futurity interrogates the farthest borders of the sci-fi landscape to imagine how queer life will look centuries in the future or 10 years from now. Oh, there's the author list. Okay. Sarah Gailey might be the only person on here that I read from before. Oh, Sunny Moraine. There's Neon Yang. A couple names that I recognize, but most that I don't. So that is very intriguing. We have something new from Tasha Suri coming out, which I'm excited about. This is called The Isle in the Silver Sea. I really like the cover. And it says it's a heart-shattering romantasy of sapphic longing. I need that. Medieval folklore and a love that spans the centuries. In a Britain fueled by stories The knight and the witch are fated to fall in love and doom each other over and over again, the same tale retold over hundreds of lifetimes. Simran is a witch of the woods. Veena is a knight of the queen's court. When the two women begin to fall for each other, how can they surrender to their desires when to give in is to destroy each other? As they seek a way to break this cycle, a mysterious assassin begins targeting tales like theirs. To survive, the two will need to write a story stronger than the one that fate has given to them. But what tale is stronger than the knight and the witch? Oh my god. Is this a standalone? If it's a standalone, I'm even more excited. Oh, I'm gonna love it. I feel like I'm gonna love it. Fiend by Alma Katsu has been announced. This is not an author I absolutely love, but she writes a lot of historical horror that I know people are into. So I'll tell you quickly what it's about if you didn't already know. The Barisha family runs one of the largest import-export companies in the world, and they've always been lucky. Their rivals suffer strokes. Inconvenient buildings catch on fire. Earthquakes swallow up manufacturing plants, destroying harmful evidence. Things will always seem to work out for them. They're blessed. At least that's what Zeph, the patriarch, has always told his 3 children, and each of them knows their place in the family. When things stop going as planned and the family blessings start looking more like a curse, the family begins to splinter, each hatching their own secret scheme. They didn't get to be one of the richest families in the world without spilling a little blood, but this time it might be their own. Interesting. I am always looking for something that gives the vibes of The Fall of the House of Usher, that adaptation, like the family and the like manipulation and following each of them. I'm always looking for a book that gives that energy, and this like feels like maybe it could be in that vein. Then Girl Dinner was announced by Olive E. Blake, who's an author I don't think I'm going to read anymore from, but I was just intrigued to find out what it's about. Each member of the house, the most exclusive sorority on campus, and all of its alumni are beautiful, high-achieving, and universally respected. After her freshman year she'd rather forget, sophomore Nina knows being one of the chosen few accepted into the house is the first step on her path to the brightest possible future. Once she's taken into the fold, the house will surely ease her fears of failure and protect her from those who see a young woman on her own as prey. Meanwhile, we're following a professor who's struggling to return to work after accepting a demotion. After 18 months at home with her newborn daughter, Sloane's clothes don't fit right, her girl dad husband isn't as present as he thinks he is, and she's invited to be an academic liaison for the house, and they each get drawn deeper into the rituals of the sisterhood, learning that living well comes with bloody costs. And when they're finally invited to the table, they will have to decide just how much they can stomach in the name of solidarity and power. I think that sounds like it'll be for a lot of you. The vibes are interesting. Okay, now onto the list of books that I just saw basically the title or the cover, and I've never read from the author before, but I added it to my on my radar shelf because I'm intrigued. This one I've talked to you about before, How to Lose a Goblin in 10 Days, but it got a cover and I think it's so cute. It's exactly what I was hoping for and expecting. So it is now officially a fantasy romance on my TBR for 2026. Oh wait, this is an author I read from before. I just made that up. This is The Magician of Tiger Castle. I just want to mention this because I don't think Louis Satcher, author of Holes, has published a standalone novel in like 10 years. So this just interested me because it's an adult novel. Like, how intriguing is that? Long ago and far away, and somewhere south of France, lies the kingdom of Esquiveta. There, Princess Tulia is in nearly as much peril as her struggling kingdom. Esquiveta desperately needs to forge an alliance, and to that end, Tulia's father has arranged a marriage between her and an odious prince. However, 1 month before the wedding of the century, Tulia falls in love with a lowly apprentice scribe. The king turns to Anatole, his much maligned magician. 17 years earlier, when Anatole first came to the castle, he was regarded as something of a prodigy. But after a long series of failures, the latest being an attempt to transform sand into gold, he has become the object of contempt and ridicule. The only one who still believes in him is the princess. When the king orders Anatole to brew a potion that will ensure Tulia agrees to the wedding, Anatole is faced with an impossible choice. With one chance to save the marriage, the kingdom, and most important to him, his reputation, will he betray the princess or risk ruin? That sounds fun. Next up, this horror popped up in my feed. It's called Breathe In, Breathe Out. No, wait, Breathe In, Bleed Out Oh God, by Brian McCauley. Hannah has been running from her demons ever since she emerged from a harrowing wilderness trip with her fiance. No one knows exactly what happened the day he died, but Hannah would like to keep it that way, even if his ghost still haunts her. So when her friend group gets an exclusive invitation to a restorative spiritual retreat in Joshua Tree, Hannah reluctantly agrees in search of a fresh start. Despite her skepticism of the strange guru Pax and his belief in the supernatural world, Hannah soon finds healing through all the yoga, sound baths, and hot springs offered at the tech-free haven. But this peaceful journey of self-discovery quickly descends into a violent fight for self-preservation when a mysterious killer starts picking off retreat attendees in increasingly gruesome ways. As the body count rises and Hannah's sanity frays, she'll have to confront her dark past and uncover the true nature of a ruthless monster hell-bent on killing her vibe for good. That sounds, yeah, I think like also the cover is making it feel like a little tongue-in-cheek horror. That's intriguing. This cover is also in a similar vein, like very pop art. I think this one is actually set in the 50s, so the cover definitely makes sense. It said, dark matter meets girl interrupted with a feminist twist in this gripping psychological thriller. It's called The Once and Future Me by Melissa Pace. Virginia, 1954. When a young woman wakes on a transport bus arriving at Hanover State Psychiatric Hospital, she remembers nothing of her life before that moment. None of the dark things she must have seen and done to have forged her into such a cunning and skillful fighter. Dr. Sherman tells her she's Dorothy Fraser, a paranoid schizophrenic committed by the state for her violent and grandiose delusions, but her gut and the steely voice inside her head makes her certain he's wrong. Until unsettling visions begin to invade her reality, presenting her with a broken future where frantic scientists urge her to complete her mission in 1954, save mankind by finding a key to cure a deadly virus called the Guest. Okay, this is getting chaotic. Believing it's Hanover that's causing her wild hallucinations, she tells no one about them, focusing only on escaping. But then she has a visitor, a man whose kind, loving face and touch she remembers, a man who knows all about her visions because he's apparently spent years helping her cope with them. Her husband, Paul Fraser. Dr. Sherman urges Paul to consider admitting his wife to the unit, the hospital's experimental ward where she can undergo a new treatment protocol to control her disease and have a chance at life outside the hospital. Now she's caught between two possible realities, believing in the future that she might save the world, or like going with treatment. Interesting. Back to wormy horror. You Weren't Meant to Be Human by Andrew Joseph White. Alien meets Midsummer in this chilling debut adult novel about identity, survival, and transformation amidst an alien invasion. Okay. Festering masses of worms and flies have taken root in the dark corners across Appalachia. In exchange for unwavering loyalty and fresh corpses, these hives offer a few struggling humans salvation, a fresh start. It's an offer no one can refuse. Crane is grateful. Among his hive's followers, Crane has found a chance to transition, to never speak again, to live a life that won't destroy him. He even met Levi, a handsome ex-Marine and brutal killer who treats him like a real man mostly. But when Levi gets Kane pregnant and the hive demands the child's birth, no matter the cost, Crane's desperation to make it stop will drive the community that saved him into a devastating spiral that only can end in blood. I'm scared. Oh, this is short stories. Okay. Teenage Girls Can Be Demons by Haley Piper. 13 terrifying coming-of-age stories. Okay, noted. Oh, good. More bugs. This is Itch by Gemma Amor. It says, Josie is at rock bottom. Burnt out, heartbroken, and recovering from an abusive relationship, she lives in a haunted existence after returning to her isolated hometown on the edge of the Forest of Dean. That's all I get. And it says, the folk horror novel Crawling Under Your Skin for Halloween 2025. Something moves on the forest floor. Scary. It's an eyeball cover, and I guess that grabbed my attention. Oh no, another eyeball cover. This one's called Futility by Nuzo Ono. Chia runs one of the best restaurants in Abuja, Nigeria, and is renowned among the male clientele for her captivating beauty and delicious hot pepper soup. But her hot pepper soup has a secret ingredient, and her beauty is not what it seems. Then Claire is a 50-year-old British woman living in Abuja with her young Nigerian boyfriend and his beautiful cousin. Consumed by jealousy and resentment and blinded to the poisonous tendencies of her beloved son, after a night out at Chia's infamous restaurant, Claire's carefully organized life spirals into chaos. Both women seethe with rage and bitterness, and when a trickster spirit offers them revenge on those who have wronged them, they cannot resist. Crackling with wit, this blood-soaked, expletive-laden, vengeance-filled horror story. Satirical, twisty, and murderous. I will be reading that, and I think perhaps you will be forced to read it with me. Another Southern Gothic horror, I'll Make a Spectacle of You by Beatrice Winifred Eicher, came across my feed. It says it's heart-pounding, gothic, takes place at Brixbury University, the oldest and most storied HBCU in the nation. But as one student is about to find out, a long history comes with a legacy of secrets. Zora is an ambitious grad student at her dream program when her thesis advisor hands her a strange diary and suggests she researches the local folklore about a beast roaming the woods surrounding campus. Zora finds a community uneager to talk to an outsider. As she delves into the history of the beast, she uncovers a rumored secret society called the Keepers that has tenuous ties to the beast and Brixbury itself. Zora soon finds herself plagued by visions of the past, and her grip on reality starts to slip as she struggles to uncover what is real and what is folklore. But when a student goes missing, Zora starts to wonder if the Keepers ever really disbanded. There's something in the woods, and it has its eyes on Zora. That sounds like it's for me. This title and cover really grabbed my attention, and I hope that the synopsis meets my expectations. It's called A Blood as Bright as the Moon by Andrea Morstabolini. It says, a vampire desperately torn between worlds is hunted down by a secret society bent on his destruction in this queer gothic horror. Frankenstein, Germany. Ambrose, a young vampire, lives a life secreted away from the modern world with the rest of his clan, all of them under a spell of the charismatic Regina, who spins stories of salvation for their kind. Their grand plan? To build makeshift wings and fly to the moon where a safe haven awaits all vampires. But Ambrose harbors a secret. He is not ready to abandon the earth, and he is in contact with a human who believes he can be saved. As the rest of his kind prepare to flee their home, Ambrose is torn between loyalties. However, something else is on the horizon. The Royal Diurnal Society, a group with sinister plans for vampires, are closing in, and if Ambrose isn't careful, he could find himself right at the center of a terrifying and mysterious experiment. It's tagged as horror, fantasy, vampires, LGBT, gothic, queer. It's under 300 pages. Definitely intrigued to pick that up in the fall. Then a horror mystery that I saw comes out this summer, How to Survive a Horror Story. I just wanted to know what it was about, so we'll find out. Mallory Arnold. 7 authors enter a manor. There we go. That's all I need to know. Can they survive the story within? When legendary horror author Mortimer Queen passes, a group of writers find themselves invited to his last will and testament reading, expecting a piece of his massive fortune. Is it going to be a game? Each of them have their own unique connection to the literary icon, some known, some soon to be discovered, and they've been waiting for their chance to step into the author's shoes for some time. Instead, they arrive at his grand manor and are invited to play a game. The rules are simple. Solve the riddle and progress to the next room. If they don't, the manor will take one of them for itself. You see, the Queen estate was built on the bones of the Mortimer family, and like any true horror story, the house is still very, very hungry. Yes. I saw this one. I can't figure out if I love the cover. I do. Maybe I do love it. I love the green. I love the sketchy nature of it. It's called Herculean by Grace Byron. This horror debut follows a young trans woman after she arrives at an all-trans girl commune founded by her toxic ex-girlfriend, only to discover that demons, both literal and figurative, haunt her fellow comrades, and she's their next prey. Yeah. Cosmic Love at the Multiverse Hair Salon. I'm obsessed with the cover. It's by Annie Marie. It says it's a multiverse novel about 2 women who fall in love despite living in worlds that are 5 months apart, as they try to find a timeline that doesn't end in disaster. That sounds great. And then lastly, I had 2 things that I wanted to show you that aren't super important, but The Husbands, my battery's dying. The Husbands by Holly Gramazio got a new cover for the paperback version, and I want to know if you like it more than the original, because I can't figure out if I do. I think I do. I think it gives the vibes better, that it's like fun and quirky, not to take it too seriously, while the original cover like still is that, but also I feel like because of the colors of it, it feels more of like a serious Like it could be a little more lit thick when it is a little goofier. And then Catalina, I almost bought like literally yesterday because I love the cover so much and I've read it and I liked it. And the green and the gold is so pretty, but it just got a new cover for its paperback and it's so pretty. Like the pink and all the eyeshadow on the eye. I'm trying to figure out which one I need to buy. I like them both equally, so you have to tell me which one. So that's all the bookish news that I have to share with you today. I think we've decided some things together that we're going to read, that we're not going to read. I would love to know your thoughts on any of them down below, the favorite cover that you saw. And I will see you in another one. There are so many announcements around spring, so I'm sure I'll see you in like a couple weeks with another episode. Bye!